Peace and joy, guys. Welcome back to another video, Drumheller Farms. Hey, you see the title of the video, and I feel like I couldn't title my video that without giving you a little backstory about how I got my start in regenerative agriculture. So first off, I wasn't raised on a farm. I never thought I would be farming. I had the opportunity of purchasing a small bit of property, and later on, a couple years later, purchasing another set of property next to me. And at that point, I took over a grass-fed beef herd. Now, this farm couldn't sustain 17 head of cattle before I would have to feed hay in August. Now, farming was never on my radar. Never did I think I would ever become a farmer. But I was able to take over this herd of cattle and make a run at it. Fast forward to a couple years down the road, I felt like the Lord was speaking to me about moving my cows every day. Never heard of such a thing, didn't really know what that meant. Never really was around cattle. To be honest with you, my first year, I was afraid of the cattle. But I listened, and I started moving cattle every day. Now where we are today, we run about 100 to 120 head of grass-fed, grass-finished beef. We graze from May to January most years. We're also raising about 2,000 pasture-raised chickens, pastured pork, pastured turkey, and soon grass-fed lamb. Now, all on that same piece of land that couldn't sustain 20 head of cattle without feeding hay in August. Now, I will tell you, we did raise our own hay at that point, and that was a pain. Working a full-time job, dealing with the animals, as well as trying to do the hay just didn't work for our operation. So we sold all the hay equipment to bury my plow, and I buy about $10,000, maybe $15,000, depending on the year, of hay a year. And, you know, we're able to bring a lot more animals on the farm because of that. And also because of our regenerative practices. So let's hop on my morning chore rig. Let's go move some cattle. Guys, we've been moving cattle now every 12 hours. This is our 5th year. And I feel like something happened this year. You know, every year our grounds were improving, getting better and better, introducing more animals to the land. But it was like this year, it's been the biggest change in our land. Take a look at this picture from the other day of us moving cattle. It's amazing the difference when you start working with the land and stop trying to fight it. So I've been doing something new here the last 2 days. Instead of moving cattle every 12 hours, I've been moving them 3 times a day. Building one cell, dividing it into 3 paddocks to try to get a little more harvest efficiency. I changed my grazing methods about mid last year. Before then, I was doing the take a third, leave a third, trample a third. And what I found was, although I think that was a good method, we weren't getting a long enough resting period between, you know, coming back to where we started. We've switched to a non-selective style of grazing. And I gotta tell you, it has changed the farm yet again. Take a look at this field. Take a look at the manure distribution. Just look at how they're cleaning this up. That way it was moving every 12 hours, and now we're starting to walk into 3 time a day moves. Now, I'm only doing this for the Memorial Day weekend because I'm around the farm all weekend. Normally, I would just move them twice a day, before work, after work. It's a pretty simple process. What I'm doing right now is I like to get them up, get them to do their stretch, get them to defecate on this side over here before they go into this new fresh green grass. And that'll take about 2 to 3 minutes. If you just give them that little bit of time, it's amazing how many of them will poop, and it'll keep you from getting your new grass over here spoiled. Look at that. Can't even hardly see the cattle in there. There's so much grass. And there is starting to get some seed heads. It's starting to get away from us. And I'll just tell you, we have a lot of property ahead of us with all those seed heads. And it doesn't bother me a bit. Look it down in there. Tons of leaves. Tons of forage. A lot of people let those seed heads really bother them, and they spend their time mowing pastures, and I think it's ridiculous. Okay, buddy, everybody's down here. This calf was born yesterday, and he came out of a full Murray gray cattle. Was bred to a full South Pole, and this might be something that we want to consider keeping. Come on, buddy, let's go find your mama. Come on, let's go find your mama. Come on. You hear her calling for you? Come on. Seems like whenever I've listened to anybody that said you have to mow your pastures, I went out, mowed pastures, and then we never got another rain. And I've just decided a few years ago, I believe there is times that you need to mow your pastures, but I don't believe it's because of seed heads. We're reseeding our farm every year because we're coming in 4 hooves on every animal, and we're stampeding that seed that's on top of the grass down in the ground. Now, people say, well, your grass goes dormant, you know, once it goes to seed, it doesn't want to grow anymore. I don't know the exact science behind that. All I can tell you is this grass is going to grow back. It does every year, and it works wonderful. Everywhere you look, there's manure pads. I mean, you can't go 2 foot without a nice big manure pad somewhere. That's what you get when you get them in here tight. And this is a non-selective style of grazing. And since we started doing this, I just got to tell you guys, it's completely game changer for our farm. Our resting periods are into the 70+ days. And they're still leaving more than what I would like to see, to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff down here that they are not taking advantage of, which is why I decided this weekend to try to move them 3 times a day instead of 2, just to see if I could tighten them up a little more, force them to take a little more of the plant. Something's changed this year in our farm, guys. Look at the grass. It's really not been any different of a growing year than the last 2 years that we've had as far as thus far. Last year we started to get into a drought at this time for about 2.5 months. But I'm stockpiling a whole farm this year. I've never been able to rest a farm, and that's because of non-selective grazing. So, you know, the biggest critics will tell you, what do you do in a drought when you've taken all of your litter bank, which clearly I have not done. But when you graze it down so short, I guess is better the way to say it, what are you going to do when you hit a drought? Well, keep in mind, we're stockpiling some grass right now. I got about 30 acres of grass that's stockpiled. And that doesn't include the 60 acres ahead of us that we haven't hit yet. But we have a farm that we're not touching. And my question to those same people is always going to be, what are you going to do when you hit a drought? And they normally say, well, we're going to tighten them up, make them take more of the plant, buy us more time. Exactly what we're doing here. It's pretty much a no-brainer if you ask me. So now they've come in here, they've knocked some of those tall grass around. You can see they're going after this clover that's in there. They're getting down, they're grabbing that leaf. They do eat a lot of these stems. There's one right over there doing it. And I'm beginning to think we need more cattle, guys. All right, enough cattle for about 6 hours, then I'll come back out here, move them again. I got to get chickens moved. Chickens are going in 2 days. Our first batch of 200 chickens going in 2 days. And then lambs are coming to the farm in 2 days. Ooh. Ooh. Did you call me weird if I pretend my bike is a horse in the mornings when I do chores? Here's the chickens. They are almost 9 weeks old. And they're getting to be about the right size for harvesting. You know, I can move that hay around with the grapple bucket wherever you want it.
I just did the inside for now. I haven't decided what I want to do.
Lay down, me boy. I'm gonna go move cattle.
To their 2/3? Nice.
All right, guys, it's time for the second move of the day. Like I said, I'm around the farm here, so I wouldn't normally do this on a general day because I'm working my in-town job, but we are building a 24 by 24 12-foot tall structure for our sawmill. I told you we were going to be doing a future video on this, and this is nothing. This isn't the most expensive, fanciest sawmill in the world, that's for sure, but it's going to do what we want it to do, and that's what those pine logs are doing there. It's going to give us the opportunity to mill some lumber here on the farm. You know, my hope is, you know, this is setting myself up for future, so to speak. And the plan is, you know, hopefully one day we get to the point where we go, shoot, I need a 2x4, I need a 2x6, and I can go over to the lumber shed and go grab one right off the stack, like no big deal, you know. All right, midday move. Right here we're in the peak of the sun. It's about 12:30. Guys, something else I've noticed, you can look at all these cattle, they're facing our left side here. It seems as though the animal performance has been better the last few days of doing this non-selective graze. They are full, very, very full. These animals, they're hooting and hollering at me right now, but yesterday I came out here to move them in their afternoon move, and you can still kind of see the line of where they were in their afternoon move here. And I literally left and came back about an hour and a half later because they were just all hanging out down here, weren't making a peep. They didn't even want to move. They were so full. And you can kind of see that line right there. And when I came out here about 6:30 was when I normally move them in the afternoon, that line was even. I mean, you could see it from the other side of the field. You could just see a line of greener grass where they had not eaten that final cell down enough. That's why I waited another hour and a half. And you can see they still needed a little more time over here compared to what you see over here. I go ahead and just stick that down into the ground so that if somebody bumps this wire, it doesn't ruin everything. And let's move these guys. As soon as they hear that click. Then I just leave these sitting right here because later on today I'll use them on the next cell. There's a little hill here, and this will give you a pretty good. There's some groundhogs making a mess over here, but gives you a good vantage point here of what's happening. It doesn't look like there's as many cattle as there is in here. There's about 100, and with calves there's about 115 cattle in here. About 18, actually 19 of those being calves. So some of those yearlings, you can't, they're not over the top of the grass. That's the issue. You just can't really see them all. It's kind of amazing, but they're going right after it. They're eating it right down. So that's one thing I wondered about doing this non-selective grazing. Maybe, you know, pushing the animals a little harder. What would we see in animal performance? And what I'm surprised is the animal performance is actually better. But you can see, guys, what we got ahead of us. I mean, at this rate, there's just a ton of forage left. It goes for a long ways back there. And the crazy thing is, right at this point, I can almost stop and turn around and go back where I started. Ooh, just getting off that roof up there. It's hot. My net got burned. We'll see how they did on this 3 moves a day deal here. And then we got a meeting tonight about some property. We got some big news coming up here for Drumheller Farms. See how this works out. Now earlier, you remember when I said they don't even come?
it's like they know they're about ready to be moved and they're just hanging out down there. We're in the old school mule here. Joseph's got the gator. And we have to make trails through the grass because it's just so tall they'll never see the fence. So grass, it's up taller than the mule here. See why we're making a trail through it. Allison's got him moving here. Man, she's about to calf. Yeah. Man, she's a beaut. Man. All right. Got some mamas. Well, they kind of hit this field about the same as what I'm getting out of 2 moves, to be honest with you. It's really, I would argue that it's actually better with 2 moves than 3 moves, and it's because this last paddock, my timing is off on it. I don't think I could make this a little less wide, make it a little more narrow, but that's a brand new calf right there. Yesterday. But the thing about it is I don't think it's a timing issue is what it is. See, last night I had to leave them in here for another hour and a half longer, and it's kind of set everything back. But look at the difference. This looks like somebody came through here with a lawnmower and just whacked it right off at, you know, 5-6 inches tall. And then you get over here and you can just see, you know, physically you can see it, the difference between this and this. And if we didn't have this meeting going on here tonight, man, there's just a ton of grass in here, guys. If we didn't have this meeting going on that I don't know how long it's going to take, I would just leave them in here. But this is going to be a good example how well this stuff grows back. Does this paddock grow back better than this? Do those front paddocks grow back better than back here? My guess is because of this mat laying over the soil, basically, that this is not going to grow back as fast. It's going to take a lot longer for the grass to grow through this, where over there it's going to have an easier time growing through. But that'll be a good little test. All right, guys, appreciate watching the video. Hit that subscribe button, share with a friend. God bless.
Enjoy.
I think that's pretty darn good for 2 days worth of work from 2 guys that don't really know what they're doing. I mean, I've been around this stuff my whole life, but I've never actually built a pole barn on my own.